Hi, everyone. My name is Angela Olson, she, her, and I'm the Deputy Director at the Bicycle Alliance of Minnesota. I've been the Deputy Director. This is my fourth year, and I'm also an alumni of the U of M, where I graduated with a degree in, believe it or not, theater, arts, and dance. Um, but the U is where I started my kind of like journey as a person who primarily rides a bike because I would be at rehearsal for plays at the Rary Center, and I lived for like deeper into Seward, and I'd have to take the number 2 bus that I would catch on Riverside Avenue outside the Jimmy John's, and sometimes I'd be waiting out there between like at like 10, 11 at night, and I felt like a little bit um nervous to wait a long time. I was like 19, I was new to the city, and then in the wintertime, I didn't want to wait in the cold. So I started biking as a way to get home a little bit faster, not to dig on transit. I also am a big proponent of transit, but it's kind of like how I got started, and it kind of just led me on this trajectory to get real into this. So I have a presentation. I don't know if that's kind of the vibe of the coffee chat. I don't have to do it. I can just kind of talk through it, but I'll share. Um, that's cool.
Yeah, that's great, Angela. Visuals are great.
Great. Um, and I have this is like part of a longer presentation, and I don't know if all of it will be right for this, but so I'll just talk a little bit about some principles of riding your bike. I have primarily been a bike commuter. So that's a little bit what this is going to focus on is like using your bike as transportation. Of course, there are a gajillion ways to ride on a bike. And when I say the word bike, I mean anything that is basically people powered wheels and pedals, right? So a trike, a quad bike, a recumbent. There's lots of different kinds of bikes. Um, so I'll talk a little about that stuff. I'll show you some infrastructure. There are some videos in here that I don't think I'll have time to share with you, but I can put them in the chat too. Um, so just like really quickly, I'll tell you a little bit about our organization. So we're BikeMN, or the Bicycle Alliance of Minnesota. We're just out here trying to make Minnesota a really great place to get around, whether you're biking, walking, rolling, taking transit, even in your car, right? You deserve to get to where you're going safely, regardless of how you're doing it. So we do education and advocacy to help make Minnesota a safer place to walk, bike, and roll. So we write legislation, we lobby and advocate for different laws and policy changes. A couple that you might know about in Minnesota, you are legally allowed to roll through a red stop sign when it's safe for you to do so. That was a law change we wrote. And another big one that we did um, was mandate bicycle and pedestrian education in all schools, grades K through 8 across the state. That happened in 2023. And then we teach people all about biking, walking, and rolling. So I give presentations like this. I chat with folks. I also teach adults how to ride bikes who have never ridden before, which is my favorite thing. We have an e-bike program that supports people riding electric bikes to and from work. And we train teachers across the state on how to facilitate safe biking and walking classes to their students. So we're traveling all over. We're trying to do the thing, like I said, just to make it a safe and really nice place to get around. We've been around since 2008, so we're entering our 16th year. Um, some of this might be old hat to some of y'all, so I'll kind of breeze through some of this, but at any point, if you have questions, put them in the chat. I'm usually pretty good at being able to monitor both. But a couple of things when you are getting started on your bike, you got to have the right equipment, right? A lot of times people come to me and say, biking doesn't feel good, it hurts me, I don't like it. And a lot of times it's because the bike doesn't fit you, right? I always tell people the bike should fit your body doesn't need to fit the bike. One thing, like for example, whenever I teach new riders, they always think they need like a really big, huge, cushy seat. And depending on the size of your rear end or your hips, that might not actually be the best choice for you, right? So you want the right size for you, the right shape. There are actually people out there who have like certifications in bike fit is very cool. That can help you. But when you're looking for a bike, a good thing to think about is what do I want to use it for, right? There's so many different styles. It can feel really overwhelming to walk into a shop and be like, I don't know what to get, right? And especially when people are trying to make a sale, you don't always know the right questions to ask. So think about, what are you going to use it for? Is it going to fit you? Take it on a test ride. Um, and think about kind of like the shape, style. It looking cool is also valuable. If it's a bike that you get that you don't like how it looks, you might not ride it, right? So a good rule of thumb is you want to be able to stand over the frame and have at least a couple of inches between your body and the bike frame so you can lift up the bike between your body and the bike. You should be able to reach the handlebars really comfy, and your knees when you pedal should not feel real crunched up, but you also shouldn't be really locked out when you're pedaling either. And like I mentioned, there are a gajillion different types of bike. I stand by this so far that for every body, there is almost certainly a bike that exists for you. There's different kinds of adaptive equipment, like I've shown here. There are bikes with electrical assists. There are bikes that are specially designed for you to go mountain biking, fat tire bikes. There's all sorts of different kind of bikes. So some people start to get really into it and have different bikes for every season. But there are also bikes that can be a little bit more kind of adaptable for what you need. So there's lots of different kinds of bikes. So I always tell people this because sometimes it can be discouraging, like, oh, I can't ride that bike. The good news is you don't have to. We can find the one that fits you. You also want to have a helmet that's going to fit your brain. So in Minnesota, we do not have helmet laws. However, it's still a really good idea to wear a helmet. Helmets are what we call passive safety, which means you do it once and then it's done for the rest of your bike ride. You don't have to continually do it. But making sure it fits is really important. Especially, I see people with their helmets way up here. And I have also been guilty of that. In fact, one time I was at a rally for Lindale Avenue, and our friend Anthony Taylor, who I think is on this call, came up to me and said, "Is that your helmet? Can I fix it for you?" And like adjusted it for me. So, things wiggle around and move out of place. Helmets don't need to be pricey to be safe. We get our helmets for like $7 to $10. Um, and helmets also, if it's in a crash, throw it in the trash. They technically have an expiration date, which is because the foam can kind of like deteriorate over time. If your helmet's 6 or 7 years, it doesn't mean it's going to explode when you put it on your head, but it means it's probably a good time to think about getting a new one. A couple of safety principles that I'll go through quickly is following the law, being conspicuous, which means being really visible and seen, being predictable, thinking ahead, and riding ready. So, as a biker on the road, you have the same rights and responsibilities as anyone in a car. So, a good rule of thumb I say is if you are using wheels and you're on the street, you're a vehicle. If you're using wheels or your feet and you're on the sidewalk, you're a pedestrian. So, you got to act the way the infrastructure demands. So we're going to follow the traffic patterns, signal our turns when it's safe to do so. Um, when you're riding, it's really good to look out, not down, kind of like anticipating. You can feel more vulnerable on a bike when you're around a lot of cars on the road. So it's good to kind of anticipate behavior. Using a red rear and white front light when you're riding at night. The law says a reflector in the back and a light in the front. So making sure you're really visible, especially when it's dusk. And some people even keep their lights on all the time just to be like extra visible. And riding ready, you want to do a little bit of a check on your bike and know the rules of the road before you go ahead. I won't show you this video, but I'll link to it when I'm done. This is just a really simple safety check that you can do on your bike every once in a while when you're going to ride it, just to make sure it's like in the good condition. And one reason I really advocate for doing this is to get to know your equipment, right? The more you know what you're using, the more confident I find you kind of feel. Um, so I'll share that with you. It's kind of goofy, but it goes through the principles of it. Some other basics, basic Minnesota bike law. We have a handbook. I also wrote a blog post about some of these laws that might be useful that I'll share. But again, you got all the same rights and responsibilities as when you're driving a car, except for the stop as yield that I mentioned, that you can roll through a red stop sign when it's safe for you to do so on your bike. It doesn't mean you can just blast through every stop sign, because if you get involved in a crash, it probably wasn't safe for you to do that, right? We still got to be responsible, but it's a really good thing for being in control of your bike and your own safety when you're starting and stopping. Here's a little bit about some different kind of infrastructure. So Minnesota and Minneapolis is cool and also challenging, right? We have a ton of infrastructure, which also means in Minneapolis especially, which also means we have a ton of different infrastructure, which can be confusing. Even for myself, sometimes I see a type of infrastructure and I'm like, well, what? Like, I don't see that very often, right? So it can be confusing and challenging. So here I've got some different examples of different types of bike lanes. The most common ones you're going to see are the two on the left. So a painted bike lane, either with like, sometimes you'll see it with a big green stripe or the lines. Advisory bike lanes, you don't see a lot, but one place I do know there is one is on Franklin Avenue after it crosses Hennepin. There's an advisory bike lane. What that indicates is that the road itself is not wide enough to accommodate both a car travel lane and a bike lane. So they allow for cars to go into that dashed part of the bike lane if you've got oncoming traffic. You don't see those a lot. And then we've got different kinds of buffered bike lanes and protected bike lanes. One thing I always like to tell people is paint is a great visual reminder, but it doesn't actually protect us. So it's there to show where the line or where the bike lane is. One other thing that's not on here are two-way cycle tracks. We're seeing more and more of those. A great example, and actually the example that's converted me to being a more of a two-way cycle track fan is the one on Bryant Avenue. Washington Avenue and Hennepin Avenue also have them, but you're not required to use it. You don't have to use a bike lane just because it's there. And in some cases, maybe it's not the safest. I bike on Minnehaha Avenue every day to get to work. And I can tell you that in February, I'm not riding in the bike lane because it doesn't exist because of all the snow. This is a video on lane positioning that I'll share with you. Some night riding tips. Like I said, you got to have a front light and at least a red rear reflector. I would get a red light. And just because you got bright clothes on isn't going to make you visible. You want to look for something that's retro reflective, which means that the light can really bounce off of it. When I'm out riding at night, I am lit up. I want to be very visible as a biker. I want people to see me and be like, that's a person. Um, Couple other things on personal safety. I always tell people I've got a little picture here of where to lock your bike through your bike frame. Your rear wheel is got some of the more expensive stuff on it. So if you got to protect a wheel, that's the one you want to prioritize. So I always tell people try to lock through that rear triangle I've shown on here or the frame. Just never just a wheel, right? Those are really easy to take apart. Make sure all your stuff is charged. And you can map your route. And if you're feeling nervous or you're feeling not confident, go with buddies, go with friends, call up Angela. I'll go on a ride with you. I'm very slow, but I'll go with you. And then just here's a little bit of information on electric bikes. I can share more information again in the chat so that I'm not taking up a ton of space, but there are actually four classes of e-bikes. I am a daily e-bike commuter. I will share with you all. I'm an e-bike freak. I'm a huge fan of them. Class two is the most common one that you'll see. It's a bike that's going to assist you pedaling up to 20 miles an hour, but it includes a throttle if you need that little extra boost. And something that I also want to say about e-bikes is that there's a lot of like bike lash about them, kind of like more and more. And a huge problem are people riding on bikes or actually bikes being marketed to people even that aren't technically bikes, right? They're what we would call like an e-moto or an e-motorcycle. So I'll share a web page that I made that has some information on that. I'll share these links with you. There's a cute picture of me in Rochester in front of a mural after I taught a group of people some biking. Um, oh, and my email is also there. I'll share it with you. It's just Angela@BikeMN.org. I love talking about this stuff. I know very little about a lot, and I know a lot about this one thing. So I'm very happy to chat more if people have questions. But I'll share these links. Um, so thanks for inviting me to coffee chat. That's what
Angela,
I
thank you
got.
so much.
I
That
know I just
was
blasted through all that, so
No, you're great. That was so much wonderful information, and I'm sure we will have some questions for you at the end. So if you've got burning questions for Angela, keep them tucked in the back of your mind. We'll get there. And we're gonna move over to Anthony now.
Hey, good morning, everyone. So my name is Anthony Taylor, and Slow Roll, MSP, as we Slow Roll Twin Cities, actually is a program of one of many things we do. I think broadly, I have never professionally worked in bike advocacy. I feel like I've done a lot of things. I am also a graduate of the University of Minnesota. I have a chemical engineering degree, and I own a development company here in the Twin Cities. I also own a bike shop. So I am now the owner of Venture Bikes Midtown, and we are the partner with John Mark at the University of Minnesota Bike Center. And have a broad mission, actually, of really changing what does it look like. And I think for all of us, the last time you saw a large group of cyclists, I really want you to remember what they looked like, who they were, the types of bike they were riding, what they were doing, where they were going. And we have really worked to change what that looks like. So Slow Roll is one of the programs we run. Slow Roll itself is designed to help people make positive emotional connections to biking. And I am a partner of BikeMN and John Mark and all of the everybody who's doing the heavy lifting. We don't have a challenge with infrastructure. We have a challenge with culture, and it really is the thing that I always, when I get a chance to talk to advocates, is to get into that conversation. I believe that all of us who bike, and I'm assuming you're part of the sustainability community, you all likely bike, and we think everybody bikes. And I think it is really funny that in truth, nobody bikes. Like we have to accept it's a very hard truth that and Angela can confirm the latest numbers. Are we at 7% of trips by bike? Um, I mean, that this is really a thing where I am concerned that many days people make willful, committed, informed choices not to bike. And I think we've got to do things that change that. Slow roll is an opportunity for people, like I said, to make um, positive emotional connections to biking. We lead bike rides that a bike ride, there's a bike involved, but we really actually get people on a bike, but we only promise two things. That you're going to meet somebody you don't know, you're going to see a part of the city you've never seen before, you're going to have some great food, you're going to hear some great music. And so you have to commit to go on a bike ride where you don't know the route, all you know is the theme. And then what we do is we weave infrastructure together to show people how to get the places they want to go. For all of us at Bike, we know that the way that thing works, it's a secret handshake. And the problem for people as they take those first steps back into biking is they often get on a bike with their car GPS system in tow and try to get there the ways that they might drive. And that is usually the worst way to get there. So Slow Roll is designed to take people on a ride that shows them how the infrastructure is connected, the best ways to get there. And most importantly, like I said, to see the city in a different light. And so we do many things. I'm going to share a video with you. I think you all will be able to see it. And this is I gotta shrink us probably, right? All right. Can you all see anything? You all see?
Yep, we can see
Yes.
it.
Okay, great. So this is a slow roll. These are a series of slow rolls. Slow rollers themselves, so they were on a bike ride. They were greeted by a trumpeter and a poet, which was totally unexpected. Our slow rolls typically get between 75 and 150 people on them, and 80% are Black, brown, and women. And as I said, music is always involved in the experience. And we design the rides again where people are again experience infrastructure, but also on the streets, visiting farms. Part of what we're really trying to get people to realize in some ways is that it is not as dangerous out there as we think, right? Um, and that there is a protocol. And so we take all of the things that I've learned from BikeMN in terms of TS 101, which is a program they offer in terms of skills and knowledge and information, and we offer it in a compacted, experiential way for people really to kind of see themselves biking. The other thing that we do is that I think progression, and I will tell you that we understand progression with youth development in a very real way, but we don't realize that adults are more fragile and more damaged than most young people. They have a lifetime of teaching that they can fail, they will get hurt, and they're not part of what's happening. And so part of this move is to erase all that. And again, it's something that I really take to heart all the time of what is keeping people from doing it, what gets them to show up, and then how we do that. So the progression over we do slow rolls every week beginning in May, and they always last 90 minutes in terms of the ride. But the very first one, literally, I don't think we cover 7 miles. And so all of you can imagine a 7 mile bike ride over 90 minutes. By the sixth or seventh week, we are up to 15 to 20 miles, and people are astonished. So we don't tell them any distances until we are about our sixth week. Because again, I promise you, if you invite someone to go on a 15-mile bike ride, there's so many people that would exclude themselves, although that's not very far in the world of what we might do for biking. So slow roll is really designed to do that. And all the work we're doing at the Bike Center, the work we do with Melanin in Motion, which is around winter sport, outdoors, camping, is once again creating gentle introductions, lots of instruction, and positive emotional connection to activities that many people have excluded themselves from. And again, we see ourselves as part of this broader ecosystem to get people to use biking as a means of transportation. And we have a strategy for that as well that's a little different, and we can talk about that more, but I'll pass the floor on to John Mark, I think, is up next.
Anthony, thank you so much. Again, hold your questions for Anthony and we will get there. John Mark, if you'd like to wrap us up.
Well, thank you very much. Let me just start my slides here. And, just to also to reiterate, we really are a community on campus, inside and outside. We work closely with BikeMN and now with Anthony for any successes that we offer for the students. We toot our horn being, a platinum level bike-friendly university and business, but really none of this is going to be possible if we didn't have organizations like Anthony's and also BikeMN, in our area, in our biking community. They are always part of our submission, and we also learn from them and work with them for anything that we deliver to the university community. So this is something that came up in our conversation actually with with Kate just yesterday about biking on campus. It's a bit of a surprise for some reason to some people how well connected the university is to the biking infrastructure. We're only a few miles from downtown Minneapolis, and we are connected to the river, which is such a great biking experience, and to a lot of destinations, around the Twin Cities. And we realize that we need to be better at communicating this to our community. A lot of the people who come into the campus, it's their first opportunity to come to a big city. And sometimes the expectations are not there on what they could actually do on two wheels. A couple of truths about biking at the university. We do an annual survey of bikes on campus, and our survey tells us that we're about 3,000 bikes per day that are parked on campus coming in and out. We have another 600 that are on other wheels. We have 12 miles of bikeways around campus, and we have a lot of bike parking at different kinds. But the truth is that it's only 7.5% of our mode split of commuting. And still 41% of our community still travel on single occupant vehicles to and from the campus on a given day. So, we celebrate successes, but there's still a lot of challenges that we have. A couple of things that we try and do, and something that we're excited about, increasing our biking diversity. So we started doing campus orientation rides with international student and scholar services. This is from Welcome Week, pictures that we have, and we really have a good time introducing people that the biking in the Twin Cities is welcome for everyone. This is something that you probably have seen the nice rides that bikes that we've converted into our Gopher bikes for students. It's been very popular. We opened a sign-up sheet last Friday, and within 2 hours, we had to close the wait list because all the bikes were taken. And it's something that we're working hard on how we could expand this to offer this to the wider university community. And I have some great news later on, working with Sustainability Office about how we're expanding this to our frontline essential staff as well. Anthony is our new vendor partner at the Bike Center. We're expanding our self-repair capabilities for students. They could go there and learn how to fix their own bike. We have bike fix stations on campus, and Anthony is our vendor partner to offer retail and also paid service if you would like to learn more. But honestly, Anthony's staff there at the moment, they're just out there teaching everyone as well, how to enjoy, fixing a bike and just the love of biking. We continue, and this is one of our most popular programs. If you're not familiar with the ZAP program, that's a reward program for students who ride their bikes 12 times during the month to get a $10 gift card, but also for staff to earn their reimbursement for their health insurance for well-being points. And it's really one of the most generous programs that you have for earning your healthcare reimbursement. Coming up shortly, next week is Cops and Coffee. We work with the Department of Public Safety. They're giving out donuts, and we're fixing bikes on site and enrolling people to the ZAP program. This is something that we're excited coming out soon. Working with the Sustainability Office, we just got a grant to expand the Go for Bike program for frontline essential staff. So we are giving out 25 e-bikes as a starting bike library for our frontline essential staff. And this is where we go again to increasing biking diversity here to a lot of our frontline essential staff who are commuting challenged. Some of them start really early in the morning, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, where transit is a bit difficult for them. And then also just expanding the biking culture, because it is the most equitable form of transportation when you're talking about 3 to 5 mile range. We're working with the Department of Public Safety to introduce bike registration this year. We know that bike theft and personal safety, those are one of the major barriers that keeps people from biking, particularly among our BIPOC communities. So it's something that we hope to address for people to be more active in cycling to and from the campus. One thing that we're excited coming up shortly, and this is just, again, we talk about slow roll. For homecoming, we'd like to invite you to our major event, which is the reopening of our bike center. We would like to reimagine the bike center as a place where we could develop our own cycling culture. It's not just a retail store that we want people to go to. We're encouraging students to own the space. We are going to have a campus bike ride after the bike center opening. It will be a slow roll around campus, introducing people to different ways getting in and around campus. And really, for this, we talk again about celebrating connections, but it's not just celebrating our infrastructure connections. We got new bike paths along University and 4th and Oak Street. But more importantly, we want to see people that, when they see a group of riders, they see themselves in it. So it's also celebrating our cultural connections and the community connections that we have in and around campus. So there will be food and music afterwards back at the bike center. So that really is the last bit of my slides. So, we're happy to take questions about biking that you might have concerns around campus, and also just to have a general conversation about, what is our biking culture and how we could biking more inclusive and diverse on campus. That's it. Thanks again. Again, big shout out to Anthony and Angela, because really without their support, without the work that they do within the greater Twin Cities, it will be very difficult for the campus to support a biking culture as we would like to see it.
All right. Thank you, John Mark. Three wonderful perspectives. So we will now open it up to informal questions and discussion. No need to raise your hand. Please just unmute and we'll just start a dialogue here. So who has questions?
I have a question for John Mark. So, I'm the museum facilities manager at the Bell Museum, and we're sort of the gateway to the St. Paul campus. We have tons of people who bike not only on our staff, but people will park their bikes at the museum and then jump on transit to get in deeper to the St. Paul campus. And we really promote the well-being program and everything like that. And I see that we have a Zap station right off the corner of our parking lot, which is fantastic. I'm wondering if there's any opportunity to bring the Zap Tag program to have people register their bikes and everything and have sort of an event on the St. Paul campus so that folks don't have to go all the way to the Minneapolis campus to get that.
Yeah, thanks, Daryl. Okay, yeah, actually, we are going to be in the St. Paul campus next week for Cops and Coffee, and we will be doing Zap tags there. So we'll make sure that we publicize that more widely. It's an opportunity to get a donut and get a tug.
Perfect. I will promote that to our staff. Thank you.
For our community members out there, I want to get some impressions on and some ideas. I actually think 7% is pretty good compared to a lot of places in the city, and that really actually does say something. And but we need the revolution to be amplified, to reach more people, to explode, really. What do you think is the way to really push the revolution out faster, reaching more people, and really making a bigger impact faster? I'm really curious about like out of the box thinking in this community. I'm new to Minnesota. I'm from Milwaukee, where I was very involved in the Safe and Healthy Streets MKE, and I want to know what's going on here. What's the next big thing we need to do?
Kate, welcome. I'm also from Milwaukee, and know that. I think I think the campus is one of the things I think that we have to do, honestly, Kate, is we have to go 7% is bad. You know what I mean? Like, I really mean that. I think that part of the problem is that we're comparing ourselves where people are, you know what I mean? We can't do that. And Amsterdam is too far, right? Okay, we don't, maybe that's not it. But that's why I'm saying in some ways we have to do something big. And I agree with you, and that's the big idea, is that 7% is unacceptable. And I think that we then have to go that, and again, that's why I'm saying I want to come up with new solutions. I want to go, if it's only infrastructure, we keep building roads. You know what I'm saying? And so what happens is that people are pissed at bike lanes all the time because they're not for them. They're literally, that's what I mean, they're making a choice not to do it. So there's something we have to do. And I am a proponent of really, and I say this to John Mark, I say this, that if I had a magic wand, I would inspire every person that lives within 5 miles of campus, does work on 5 miles of campus, to begin to look at, and I call it a life radius. I want people to look at the 5 mile, 3 mile life radius of their home. And we want to inspire people that every trip that's in that radius is biking and walking. that we really get them excited about it, and then we support them. So what John Mark is doing with this e-bike strategy, Angela has an e-bike library program they're doing in South Minneapolis. E-bikes are magic. You know what I'm saying? I am saying to you that the big shift is to realize that people are actually choosing not to ride. They're not uninformed. They're informed by bad experience. They're informed by American laziness, American sense of time is short. That you know what I mean? There's all these ways that we see the world, and so we have to change the way we see the world. And so it's such a big thing around inspiration, and then that infrastructure means a lot to you. You know what I mean? And the best example I'll give you is in slow roll, and we get to see lots and lots of people. We ask everybody on a first slow roll, how much would you spend on a bike if we could help you get one? And so what is the number? What's the average number on a first slow roll for someone who doesn't own a bike and wants a bike? Know the number?
I bet they would spend 200 and then it probably goes,
$75. $75.
wow.
And Angela's shaking her head because it's crazy that people actually, that's what they're willing to do. If we can get them to do 3 slow rolls in 5 to 6 weeks, that's every other week almost, we then ask them again, how much would you be willing to spend on a new bike? And you know the number now? 250. So now we're in the realm of reality for a quality experience, right? You know the average dollar amount spent on a pair of teenage tennis shoes is $150, right? And so I realized that we were answering the wrong question. The thing that people are going is, how much am I willing to spend and not like this? You see what I'm saying? And so you have to answer that differently. And then Daryl, Bell Museum is a great example of a place that people go all the time. And so if everyone who was coming to Bell Museum, and biking was really the best way to get there, you know what I mean? Between transit, if it was really, because when you got there, your bike was safe, it was the best place to park, right? If all those things were true and Bell Museum community, and that's what Bell Museum has, is a community of people who love it, right? So that's what I mean. It's all about culture and community, and we have to say it's not the hard stuff. It is really the soft stuff. That's the revolution, that we are really inspiring people, supporting people to do what is the best, easiest, most convenient, most meaningful, right? Those are the words we have to start using around this. And that will start to flip the script. And I've seen it over and over and over, over and over and over, that if we can get someone to make that leap, that happens. And we have to, and I think that's the shift. And we have to invest in that. For every mile, and Angela, is this true? Bike lanes cost $1 million a mile.
Hmm.
I mean, you guys, I am saying let's spend $1,100,000 and include $100,000 around soft human infrastructure and connection
Yeah.
every mile that we build. That's the revolution.
It's awesome. No, I totally agree with you. It's from my own experience, but this is great. I'm excited to be part of this new community and want to really contribute here as well. Thank you.
I think I'll add a little bit, which is to say that I think that the value of just like having conversations with people you know is really important. I think there's a huge contention, especially between people who bike and people who drive a car. Like there's a huge amount of tension that I experience from both sides. And I think a huge part of it is that we're using infrastructure that is not designed for all of us to be using at one time. It's the same problem we face on a lot of multi-use trails, right? Like some trails actually aren't designed well enough for people to be biking, walking, and rolling all at the same time. And so what happens is that we start to like face this problem where we're like mad at each other. And I just find that to be really antithetical to sharing things. You know, we're making the best we can with what we have. The other thing is I think like I started biking, getting really into like the bike world in the early 2000s where, you know, I have seen a really cool change in the bike world over the past 20 years where it's a lot less bro culture, but it's still got this perception where people who maybe aren't, like people who don't bike, you ask them like, what does a typical biker look like? And they're probably going to name the same person. And in reality, it's like poor people, it's working class people, it's people trying to get exercise, it's people with their families, it's people getting their groceries. Like there are so many different types of people that bike for so many different kinds of reasons, and we all deserve to do it, and it's all really valuable. And I think it's really important that like you don't have to, if you want to make a change in your life that has a net positive, for every time you ride your bike, you actually help decrease the amount of greenhouse gas emissions that go into the air, almost like one for one, right? So any mile that you don't drive but you ride your bike is like that's like a one-to-one exchange, right? That even if it means like, okay, instead of driving the 6 blocks to the grocery store or taking an Uber to, to the Target, I'm gonna ride my bike this time. And even if you just do that once a week, just once a week, that small change actually has a huge impact on what we call VMT or vehicle miles traveled reduction, which I never thought I would ever know so much about, but now I do. And to Anthony's point, like it's not great to be the best of the worst. Like I always feel like such a loser when people are like, "Oh, you're from Minnesota? Wow, what a great place to bike." And I'm like, "Is it though?" Like like what's great about it to you? You know what I mean? And it's because maybe they're in a place where nobody cares about mode share alternative forms of transportation. The other thing I try to tell people who ride bikes or who are interested in is take one of those trips and try to do it on transit because multimodal transportation, like taking your bike on the bus and going somewhere, to me is a super important and vital part of being able to get around, right? You don't have to bike 10 miles if you can bike 5 of those miles and take the other 5 on a bus. And in our city, it's really challenging to do that. It's really challenging to do that. So I think a huge amount of culture shift involves like talking to the people you know because they're going to trust you and well, hopefully, right? And also you can do some of that emotional labor. And then the final thing I'll say that I feel super passionately about that feels kind of macabre, but the number 2 cause of death of children under 18 in our country is cars. And so there's this perception that like, well, it's really nice to be able to bike, right? But it's not actually. It's like life or death for some people, for a lot of people, right? And same with walking and being a pedestrian, and same with taking transit. And I think we forget oftentimes that uh, it's not just about like this desire for space, even though our roads in Minnesota make up 30% of our publicly shared spaces. We all own them. It's the biggest public shared space that exists in Minnesota. But it's really also about like true safety in life or death for a lot of people. 3 children every day it's like are killed in America, and that's not including the people who die weeks later, right? So I know that sounds like really like such a downer and a bummer, but I bring it up because when we talk about this conversation in a broader sense, we really think like, well, sure, it's nice to be able to ride your bike in a park or whatever, but like what we really need is to be able to ship stuff from here to there. And it's like, well, actually, what we really need to be able to do is get around safely. Um, because the way we get around affects and intersects with every part of our lives. The way we look affects the way we're able to get around. The way we get around affects the jobs we're able to get. Like it's really all so mismatched together. And I think, yeah, just like telling somebody like, hey, I'm going on a bike ride to go to the post office. Do you want to come with me? Like, I think we kind of undervalue the really important power of doing that. Like, oh, I'm gonna go run my errands on my bike. You want to come with? Like, that's a really low stakes and pressure to be able to do that. End rant. Uh, I don't know if it's Steven or Stefan, but you're asking a question about bike repair. Um, so a couple of things that I'm going to suggest is number one, the thing that I always say is repairing a bike is almost never really hard. It's always annoying. So like the way that I learned how to change a flat tire is because I went to a bike shop and I was treated so badly that I walked out and left. And I tried to change my bike tire myself, and I used a flathead screwdriver, and I tore the whole tire off with a bead. And this was pre-YouTube, and I got a book from the library, and I would watch the Maury Povich show. And every time a commercial came on, I was like, okay, every time a commercial comes on, I'm gonna practice changing this flat tire with this book. And that's how I learned. Park Tool has a great online resource video center. BikeMN also does offer either free or sometimes very low cost bike maintenance classes that we can that you can go to our website and see when we're having them available. We partner with a lot of places to try and provide that. I'm sure John Mark has more resources. But the other thing I would say is like try not to be afraid. Like bikes have this like stuff and these components that feel scary, but as long as you're not moving something in a way it's not designed to move, you probably won't like totally irreparably mess up your bike. Like it's really easy to just like practice on some of those simpler parts so that you can gain more confidence, and getting to know your equipment really helps with that. So those would be my advices about maintenance.
Yeah, and I'd say, Angela, I could do one better now.
Great.
Yeah, because our DIY, we have open shops at the bike center now. And that's something that we are changing in terms of, what is the bike center? It's not just a retail space, it's an education space as well, for people to learn how to fix their own bikes, as well as to find a convenient service that suits them. So, please feel free. And this is probably one of the challenges that Kate was talking about earlier on, how do we do this? Because, you know, uh, Anthony's, Stephen's already a person that's interested who came here and asked a question, but, there's 14 of us here. So what more, how could we more expect other people who are, interested but afraid about biking, to share their, how could we even be more effective at sharing these resources with them, and sharing the knowledge that there is this support for you if you are interested. And that's something that we're grappling with, honestly, and something that we hope that we would do better, as we progress through this school year. But the bike center is there. In fact, that's one of the reasons why the bike center is reimagined. And we are celebrating that again, as I said, on October 7th. Come over, feel free to have a chat whenever you have. We have hired our bike mechanic interns to teach people and help people work through their bikes. We hired our own bike shop center manager, and like Anthony's there and his staff are great. They're not going to be giving you the scary experience that Angela had, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, and I think, Stephen, I think your question is important. And the real answer is nobody gets good at bike repair by doing anything except doing a lot of bike repair. It's what Angela said. I mean, so this is the inherent problem. Bikes, the other part of it is bikes work really, really well. I mean, it's just amazing how little repair, how little maintenance they need, and they just keep working until there's a problem. So, one, we do have a bike shop on campus, right? Two is that our relationship, the bike shop, and I think this is with John Mark and myself when we first sat down. I said I want to have a different relationship. Like I really, and I appreciate it. That's what we're doing. We're teaming up. There's a retail location on campus where you can get bike repair done and you can get support in learning how to do bike repair. I also want to say that bike repair is not the magic bullet. Do not believe that if everybody could fix their own bike, they'd bike more. They would not. That is not what it is. You understand what I'm saying? It's just and just unless you just enjoy it, like you just really like doing it, it's not worth doing it. So, I mean, the stuff that people need to be able to do, fix a flat. Matter of fact, they need to pump a tire. That's what they need to be. If they can pump a tire, they get less flats. If they oil their chain, which takes nothing, that's not even a skill, their bike will ride better. If they rinse their bike off once a month, people don't know you can get your bike wet. And I think that this is, so this is the information we're not sharing. I think this is what I'm saying. We make this about bike repair. This is not about bike repair. Nobody's changing a bottom bracket, overhauling a tire. People just don't air up their tires, raise their seat, lube their chain, rinse off their bike. That's all you got to do. And if you do those things, your bike will work immeasurably well with almost nothing but you pedaling that bad boy. I mean, that's really the magic of keeping bikes working is never stop pedaling. And again, this is where I'm saying, don't even make this about mechanics and DIY and all that shit, because it is not what the magic bullet is. I'm telling you, people are making willful, informed decisions not to bike. That is our challenge.
I also think that's why I always say, like, touch your bike, like, touch it, not just like sit on it, right? And I also think like sometimes we have our bikes in our garage for all winter and it's like sat there and like it's really like, I don't know, it's been sitting there, it hasn't had any attention, like you haven't been on it in a while. So that's why I always say like get comfortable with your
Angela,
equipment because
let me ask you, how many people think their bike is broken because the tires went flat? You
a
guys,
hundred percent, a
100%,
hundred
I am not
percent,
making this
yeah,
up. People literally
no,
don't ride their bike, the
but
tires are low, and they come in and go, I
they
think
say
my
it's
bike is broken.
broken. Yeah, we get calls with our like we have a youth fleet that schools use and we get calls all the time. They're like, none of these bikes work. Can you come fix them? And we get there and it's like flat tires. Sometimes V brakes will like flip out of the bracket and be like this, but all you got to do is put it back together. And then the other thing that happens a lot with kids' bikes is that the handlebars get turned all the way around. So kids come to me a lot with that and they think it's broken. So that's why I say like learn when your tire is low, like learn what a tire feels like when it's inflated properly. And then all you have to do is like every 2 times you bike it, you just squish it and be like, okay, I feel good to go. That's why that ABC Quick Check, as dorky as it sounds, is like really valuable because you kind of like it demystifies that stuff a little bit for you. And you're like, oh, I actually can take this. And I think there's something special about a relationship with like something that you use every day and you're using your body to move around with this really efficient machine, like super efficient. That's why when people are like, "Oh, I want to get fit," I'm like, you have to really work at it if you want to get fit using a bike because a bike is meant to move you really efficiently. If you want to like really, you have to like really pump it if you want to like, it's really good for you. But yeah, no, number one thing is tires are low. People are really, or in fact, yesterday a guy came to BikeMN because the stem of the tube was like slanted and he was like I'm really worried to bike on this and I was like you if you don't know why would you not you're like well this looks weird I don't know so I we opened it up and looked at it together and I was like here's what this looks like and just like seeing that stuff really helps and touching it and feeling a little bit empowered so that if you do need some kind of maintenance you can walk in and say like hey I think this is what's happening. And get a little greasy. I think it's good for you. Get a little greasy. Carry a bandana in your pocket. Get a little greasy. Also, can I just say, maybe those of you who don't know John Mark and Anthony very well don't know this, but it is like an Avengers dream team that these two folks are working on this bike shop. I just have to say, as super fans of both of them, it is such a cool partnership. And I wish that 20 years ago I had had that access to that kind of support biking on campus. Real cool.
Thank you, Angela. Any last minute questions or thoughts? No? Okay. Well, this was a wonderful discussion. I really appreciate all three of our panelists, Angela, Anthony, John Mark. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your knowledge. I know that I learned a lot and am feeling maybe more inspired than ever to finally take the leap myself. So I'm part of that challenge myself. There are reasons why we choose to and reasons why we don't, and I'm feeling a little less scared. So thank you guys for that. Um,
Carly, I
this
live
is
not too far from the West Bank. Hit me up.
yeah,
I'll ride with you. Yeah,
No,
I'll
so
ride with
we're
you
all
we
going to
really
anytime you
show
want.
up at
appreciate
Carly's
that.
house tomorrow morning. Here we go.
Yeah, I'll ride with you anytime you want.
So
Oh,
Carly,
thank you guys.
Carly, this is really our offer. You host a ride. That's what we should do. I'm telling you, this is the magic of what we
Yeah,
do. You host a ride and we will be your support. And all of a sudden it opens everything up. And you inviting 10 friends is magic. It really would be magic. Kate, as a new person in town, we need to discover this city together by bike. It is a beautiful, amazing city. And you can only experience that magic by bike. And so that's a real offer. Uh, I have your email, Kate. I'll be and Daryl, and just because you talked about Bell Museum, it is one of my most favorite places on the planet, and Bell should host a bike ride. Like I really do
That would be
find
fun.
those are the things that pull people out of the woodwork and really there's an attraction that you at Bell will have for who shows up. It really would be cool. And there's no other experience that matches what the Bell has to offer, like being on a bike or walking. And so again, that is an open invitation for partnership with me and John Mark to host that in the spring, and we really look forward to that.
I'll be there too.
Absolutely.
Great. I'll bring it to our education team and get their thoughts on it. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Of course. Thank you to all of you. It's recorded. It'll be up on our website. If there's anything you want to review or share it with others, please. With that, we hope to see you next month. And again, a huge thank you to our speakers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye, all.
Thank you, Carly.
Thank you.